Ever notice how some game worlds feel like they're waiting for the players? And others feel like they're already in motion. That difference comes down to one quiet prep habit. Let's talk about the prep difference nobody talks about. Welcome to the Dungeon Master's Apprentice. I'm Bill, your friendly neighborhood Dungeon Master.
And I'm Trixie, his rules analyst and professional buzzkill.
If your world feels like it's just waiting for the players to do something, that's not a plot problem, it's a prep problem. And there's a prep difference between OSR and 5e Dungeon Masters that almost nobody talks about.
Because it's not about rules, it's about what kind of prep the game teaches you to value.
Quick disclaimer before the comments explode. This isn't OSR good, 5e bad. You can run amazing games in either, but the habits each style encourages are very different. Here's the difference in one sentence. Old school prep tends to focus on what NPCs want to do next. Modern prep often focuses on what already happened.
In other words, motivations versus backstories.
Modern Dungeons & Dragons culture pushes us towards lore, backstories, timelines, world history, and none of that is wrong, but it's static. Backstories explain how an NPC got here. They don't tell you what that NPC does when the players do something unexpected.
Static information creates context. It doesn't generate decisions.
I wouldn't say 5th edition rewards a specific kind of prep. What it really does is teach players that backstories are important, and by implication, it teaches that to new dungeon masters as well. That's not a criticism, it's just how learning by example works.
Because what the game emphasizes to players becomes the model new dungeon masters internalize.
Old school prep, sometimes without meaning to, focuses on pressure. Who wants what? Who's running out of time? Who's going to act if no one stops them? Old school worlds don't feel alive because they're gritty. They feel alive because they're impatient. Let's take an NPC. Backstory version. Garrick grew up poor, joined the Guard, and lost his brother in the war. That's fine, it's flavorful, but what does Garrick do? Motivation version. Garrick needs a smuggling ring shut down tonight, or his captain pins it on him tomorrow. Now Garrick lies. He pressures the party. He bargains. He takes risks.
That's the difference between a biography and a decision engine.
Here's a small example of how old school play encourages this without ever saying it out loud. In old school games, dungeons aren't balanced encounters. They're occupied spaces. The goblins aren't there to fight the party. They're guarding food, territory, prisoners, or treasure. If the party waits, the goblins don't. They reinforce, they flee, they bargain, they set traps.
Because the rules don't promise fair fights, NPCs are assumed to want outcomes other than combat. That's why older rule sets had entire sections devoted to enemy reactions. What happens when the player characters talk instead of fight?
Those reaction rules weren't flavor. They were the game telling you the NPC already wanted something. I once ran a campaign where the party ignored the main political tension in the world. Not because they were wrong, they just had other priorities. So the factions involved kept doing what they were already motivated to do. A few sessions later, those events snowballed, and suddenly the party wasn't shaping the world anymore, they were doing damage control. Not because I forced it, because they chose not to intervene.
And momentum is inertia. It's energy that keeps moving unless an outside force acts on it.
And if the players don't push back, the world just keeps going. When NPCs have motivations, the world moves without permission. Players stop asking, "So what are we supposed to do?" and start asking, "How do we deal with this?"
Agency doesn't come from more options, it comes from consequences.
Here's your prep challenge. Before your next session, take one NPC, reduce the backstory, add goals. Give them something they want right now, a reason they can't wait, and something they're willing to risk.
Because backstory explains, goals act.
And once NPCs start acting, the world stops waiting for the players to move. If this helped, like and subscribe, and tell us which NPC in your game suddenly needs a goal.
Preferably one with consequences.
And until next time, adventure on.